Thank you, everyone, for joining. Great to have all you here for our third, I believe this is our third breakout session of the day, 3 out of 20, so we're getting there. And I'm happy to introduce my actual colleagues, which is always fantastic because I think I work with some of the greatest people on the planet. So this is like a great opportunity to kind of showcase that. And I look cool via them. So that's the whole point. So with that, I would like to introduce our Chief Scientific Officer, Susan Schofer, Dr. Susan Schofer, from HAX, based in Newark, and then Dr. Peiwu, our Chief Technical Officer or Chief Technical Officer, CTO, both. She's technical and technological, based in San Francisco at our IndieBio San Francisco office, both of which, well, the San Francisco office, brand new, swanky. The HAX office, very cool, industrial, still work in progress, but maybe we can convince them to do a little walkthrough, a little secret sneak peek of what's to come. But anyway, I'm grateful to have them discuss the programs that SOSV runs, tell you more about that, the early stage resources that they provide. Some house rules. We will not be calling people up. I know everyone is like tempted to press the share audio, visual, video, audio buttons. Not today. We'll be taking questions in the Q&A box. You see you're in the chat box now. You go right, there's people. One more right, that's Q&A. Drop your questions in there. Upvote the ones you like because we're going to scroll through by popularity. And Dr. Wu and Dr. Schofer will answer those questions after a little bit of information and a deck, of course, to fill you in. With that, I'm going to hop off screen, but I'll be here the whole time there's any technical issues. The secret to any technical issues, Google Chrome and just turn it off, turn it back on, always works. Great. I'll leave it to both of you.
Thanks, Stefan. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Susan. Good morning.
Hello. Good afternoon.
We're excited to be here. Thank you for coming to our breakout session. Stefan, I don't know if it's just my Google Chrome, but I can't see the Q&A tab anymore. So I don't know if I'm the only one, but I'm going to trust that everybody else is able to ask their questions. Welcome to the SOSV session. Thanks, everybody, for coming and joining us here. We're really excited to be hosting this entire event. This is a big opportunity for us to engage with the community and really bring everybody to the table to talk about this existential challenge that we're facing and all the awesome and exciting solutions that are out in the world that hopefully will get us out of this mess. So I wanted to share a little bit about how SOSV operates and how we like to work with founders. So SOSV is an early stage deep tech fund. We start all of our investments at the pre-seed stage, and we deploy that capital through our two main deep tech programs, HAX, where Susan is the CSO and a partner, and IndieBio, where I am the CTO and a general partner. We're a multi-stage fund, and what that means is while we initiate all of our investments at the pre-seed stage, we are a lifetime friend and investor to our companies. We have about 60% of our fund is reserved for follow-on, and we really love to work with founders who are bringing amazing science and engineering-based companies to the table and are seeking to solve big problems in sustainability and climate. And what we mean to do with our programs is to work alongside our founders to help them build durable businesses that can go and make the big impact we believe that they can make. We have been doing climate tech for a long time. If we move to the next slide. And in fact, we've been investing in climate tech for even before it was called climate tech. We have companies that are working in sexy areas and even not so sexy areas. And this really is because we believe that, you know, a good 99% of what's going to make our future more tenable is reinventing how we make things and the things that we know and love today, like plastic, like ice cream, like batteries and nylon and the food that we eat and the fertilizers that go into that food, and all the materials that surround us. So we have been working in climate tech since the beginning of our fund back in 2009. And if we go to the next slide, we'll show you a little bit of the numbers of companies that we have invested in since SOSV began. And you'll see that we've made a lot of strides in building companies over the years in the last 13, 14 years that SOSV has been around. As a result, and because of how early we come into companies, we work with a lot of well-renowned venture funds in the climate tech space. And next slide, those are a lot of our co-investors and folks that make up the syndicates that invest at seed and beyond in our companies. We are the number one source of climate tech deal flow for the ecosystem and have had great performance over the years. So I'm going to hand it off to Susan so that she can share with y'all a bit about how we operate and how we work with our founders.
Thanks, Pei. Well, as Pei said, we're super excited to be here, and I think it's great to just see how many people are engaged in this space and eager to learn more about, how they get involved, whether that's through founding a company or funding a company. But I'll talk a bit about how SOSV works with you, speaking to especially the founders out there. We are pretty unique in that we really think about investing in companies that are high risk, but at the same time, as we think about it, very high reward, big opportunities to really take moonshot ideas and turn them into real businesses that have an impact on people and the planet. So the way that we do that is that we invest in the range of 250 to 500K into over 100 new startups per year. So, we really look at a lot of startups. We make bets on a lot of startups, and in that way, we really think that we're seeding the market with a lot of great technologies that can turn into businesses that can make an impact. And we have a pretty unique model in that we run hands-on programs that allow our founders and enable our founders to have accelerated progress. So what's unique about that is that our GPs and our entire staff work alongside the founders, both in labs and fabs, to build VC fundable companies. What that means is that, if you're in the IndieBio program in San Francisco, you get to work day in and day out with Pei and with the rest of her team, really to de-risk your business, to talk through what the technology can do, to understand what the customers want, what's going on, and really how that works. On our end, in the HAX program, we not only work directly with the founders to help them and figure out strategy and really help think through customer interactions and product and all those things, but we also have a hands-on team of engineers that works closely with founders to literally build and help advance the prototypes that they've made. And in that way, we help founders build strong businesses, which is then reflected in our fundraising rates. So we really, from day one, start to take what are oftentimes very technical founders and turn them into business owners and have them thinking about, who are these customers? What is the real problem that they're addressing? What do they need to do to be able to be successful? And how do we get them out in the market and start getting some traction so that they can learn, so that they can advance, so that they can de-risk? And that's reflected in the fact that our companies, over 60% of them raise a seed round within 2 years. And then, as Pei said earlier, we follow on a lot. So we reserve 60% of our capital to follow on rounds, which pace at about 200 per year. So what that really means is we're super involved, right? We're like a partner to you. We're sitting at the table with you. We're invested in your success, and we're making sure that we enable that success and participate in that success along the way. And we have some impressive climate leadership. We've been doing this for quite a long time. Obviously, we have Dr. Pei Wu here with us today. And then we also have Po Bronson, who's a renowned author, really a leader in the alternative protein space, really an expert there, made some of the keystone early investments and has deep expertise on what the future of protein is going to look like. And then Duncan Turner, who's our managing director here at HAX, was just named by Fortune as one of the top seed stage climate investors. He's also been doing this for 8-9 years, investing in companies, really understands, what this looks like, and has really evolved a point of view on climate, and how we have deep expertise there. And so the next question, I guess, is why do founders sign up? For us, because we're so unique in the way that we work, it's not just the $250,000 that we initially fund them with. Obviously, capital matters, and that is a key part of starting your business. But it's really because HAX and IndieBio are the OGs in this space. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been running startup programs in hard tech and biotech for many, many years. So we've really seen the patterns. We've learned what works. We've optimized our systems. We know how to work with these founders. And we're the first to build and staff labs and facilities. And we're the first to really have our GPs sit side by side with founders every day. And we have super deep technical and scientific talent. A couple more stats. We're very diverse. 30% of our startups have female founders, and we invest globally. We have companies in 56 countries. And we're always looking for great ideas everywhere. So we source companies out of so many top universities and all over the globe. So, if you don't see your university here, it's probably not because we haven't invested. It's just because we ran out of room on the slide. But, please reach out to us. So, we're looking for new startups every day. Get in touch. We're super active in climate tech. We're the #1 most active climate tech investor since 2018. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you have an idea for a business, if you have some technology, come talk to us. We really want to have those conversations. And the next slides we'll run through quite quickly. They're really just meant to talk about some of the investments we've made. And perhaps, Pei, you want to say a word?
Yeah. We were the first institutional investors in the cell-based meat sector. This is our company, Upside Foods. And we've done investments across food and ag, cross energy storage, in sustainable chemicals, and the like. And Susan, if you want to flip through, we've got a bunch of materials companies as well. So that's our portfolio in a nutshell. And it does look like we have a pretty good chunk of questions that are coming through. So why don't we start hitting up on these questions in the chat here. So it looks like, Pedro, do we invest in non-US companies? Yes, we do. We have investments across the globe on all continents except for Antarctica. And any advice for climate tech companies in LATAM? Yes, you should reach out to us. We have many companies in Latin America. Some of our real standouts, including Notco and BFlow and STAM and Puna Bio are some of the companies that we're proud to have invested in who are based in Latin America. Let's see. Ice cream testers, always.
Always, yes.
Susan, do you want to take Danielle Pascoli's question? Seeing that HAX and IndieBio invest in early stage startups, what are some key milestones that you like to see prior to an investment?
I mean, really what we like to see as we think about an investment is that we understand the technology, right? What does it do? How is it unique? What is the real basis of this company? We want to understand that the problem that this is addressing is a big one, is a real one. If they can come up with a solution, if they can get that done, will that have a big impact? So that's super important to us. And we also like to see the founder and understand, who is this person? Do we believe in this team to be able to drive this business, right? Are they able to step beyond just a scientific discovery and really think about taking this to market, commercializing it, talking to customers, getting out of that shell that often, technical people are in, and really taking this and building a business out of it. In terms of milestones, I think we're pretty flexible and open, so that can vary. It really just depends. Do we believe in this founder? Do we think this is technology that can make an impact? And do we know that this is a problem in the world that we've heard people talking about and that we can validate that there's a market for?
Yeah, and I'll add on there. we do go very, very early. We're very, very comfortable with technical risk. And as a result, we can invest in companies that are still paper companies. The most important characteristic that we are looking for is that founders are ready and chomping at the bit to begin the process, what could be a long process, to get to commercialization. And as Susan said, that really gets down to our founders' interest and willingness to engage with potential customers and get out into the world and talk to people. And so that's a, let's see. Okay, we have a question about equity.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll give you the high level answer, which is that out of SOSV at the pre-seed stage, we usually invest between 250 and 500K. And our objective is to protect our pro rata and maintain about 10% through Series A.
Yep.
How many startups do you consider annually in the process of picking 100 plus companies in which to make an initial investment? Do you know that number, Susan?
I don't quite know the number, but it's a large number. It's like in the thousands, right? Like 3,000 to 4,000 companies, I think we look at each year. And within that, let's say 3,000 to 4,000 that we look at, and I'm just even talking about HAX alone, right? So that's just one of our 3 programs. Within that, we probably have conversations with 500 to 1,000 of them, at least initial conversations, and then advance maybe, we probably have conversations with about more like 1,000 of them, advance about 500 of them into more advanced conversations, and then whittle that down into the number that we get really far along that go into further chats with our team, and then ultimately we make investments in.
I'll just share a little bit. You know, we have how many people are at HAX now in New Jersey?
In New Jersey, we have about 11 people.
Okay. We have 8 people here in San Francisco, and there's another 8 folks in the IndieBio New York office as well. So these 3 investment teams are the ones that are managing that deal flow, sourcing companies, and doing these interviews and diligence calls. And so while we all do have open application processes, you can also reach out directly to anybody on our teams if you want to share your company idea with us.
Okay. Sorry, I lost my place on the questions here.
Let's see.
I think here we are. What makes SOSV the best choice for early stage deep tech founders versus other accelerators and incubators?
Well, number one, we're not an accelerator. We are a program that is meant to help build up founders and work alongside our founders to build your company and really launch it. And so this is not a cookie cutter course where you're going to be getting some kind of curriculum. You're going to be working side by side with partners, general partners at the firm, and getting really hands-on, sleeves rolled up work from every member of the investment team. And what that means is that you're getting constant diligence from the perspective of an investor to help you prepare for fundraising, as well as business development support that every person on our team does on behalf of our companies. We really take seriously the idea that our teams are working on behalf of our companies at this early stage, and that your success is our success. And so we're not afraid to put in that effort as well. And I think our funding rates speak for themselves.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think just to pile on to what Pei is saying, our team has been doing this for a long time, and it's certainly not cookie cutter. You know, we work with each company where they are, where they need help, day in and day out. We're here in our space, working directly with you, whether that's providing resources right in the local ecosystem. You know, my team is constantly finding what kind of analytics do we have, what kind of resources and facilities can we get you to, whether we need to bring that in-house or find a place nearby that you can do that. You know, what exact customer connections do you need? We can make those connections. We can help guide you through that exact conversation. So it's very hands-on and bespoke to exactly where you are and what you need. And then in addition, you have the community of the other founders around you. So I think there's a lot to be learned from that as well. But it's really helping you where you need to be helped.
Does SOSV invest in climate tech focusing at the intersection of mitigation and adaptation/resilience? Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. This is all hands on deck. And so we do not take these purity tests. We're really about bringing every possible solution to bear.
Okay, what trends do you anticipate in the consumer product circularity arena?
Ooh. That is a good question. I mean, so I'll answer this from the perspective of where we're seeing some really interesting opportunities in our portfolio, and for companies that are starting to commercialize and really get their products out there. Obviously, we have a huge portfolio in food and ag, in sustainable foods, whether it's alternative proteins or cell-based meats, or even just more sustainable approaches to farming and ag. So that's an easy one for us. And then across the material sector, we're seeing some really exciting opportunities in textiles, in even building materials. And so those are some of the places where I think we're pretty excited about these opportunities.
Yeah, and I'll just add, all the things that Pei said are exactly right. I think one thing to remember about circularity is there's the complicated piece of taking a chemical or a product or a material and then turning it back into a fresh material that meets the specification and has the performance like a new thing. And then there's also actually the big logistics element to it. So a part of what we invest in certainly is on the logistics supply chain opportunities for automation and sensing and things like that really enable circular economies, so that we can really do better sorting and do better identification and segmenting of what's promising on actually turning it back into a reusable product. So that's something that we're very focused on here on the hardware side.
Okay, we have a couple questions here. How long do we stay on the board of a startup, i.e., through what stage do you stay on the board? It really depends on the company and the partner that is taking that position. So we don't require a director seat, but we do take board observer positions in some of our companies. And in some of our companies, we stay on into growth, and that yeah. So it can vary, but it can go as long as it makes sense. I don't know if that really answered your question, Ed, but typical time it takes to evaluate a startup before making a decision to invest or pass. It can be as short as a few days, and then in some cases we do take a little bit longer. To be totally candid, oftentimes the ones that take longer are the ones where we're having a really productive conversation with the founders, trying to hone the concept before making that decision. And so that usually is a back and forth conversation, as opposed to us largely disappearing into the ether and just hiding in your data room. We really do try and make it a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say on our end, we try to do it quickly, right? Because we have a lot of companies to invest in and we want to move quickly. That's our goal. But I'd say anywhere from 2 weeks in the best case scenario can go really quick, to maybe 6 to 8 weeks if we're having longer conversations and really trying to understand this space or work with the founder and understand how they can evolve and think about what they're doing. I'll just pick another one because I see it has a lot of upvotes, which is, does HAX back multiple companies in an industry? And I think we can answer that generally for SOSV. Certainly, I'd say we back multiple companies within an industry. We do not try to back companies that are directly competitive. But, there are some industries that are tricky and difficult. that we know there needs to be multiple solutions. So we believe there's enough room for multiple technologies, for multiple businesses that might have slightly different takes on how to have a solution. So we would back those, but we, oftentimes just try more to think about, is this complementary to a prior investment? How might these actually work together within the ultimate solution and sort of the value chain of what they're delivering to the market? And that's what we think about.
Susan, there's a question here. Are you interested in hardware startups leveraging mature supply chains initially, where the moat comes from the community or brand as opposed to planning or development of hardware IP over the long term?
I think potentially, our sweet spot certainly is to work with people who have developments, advancements in the hardware, hard tech space. That said, we're not opposed to things that are leveraging mature technologies that we can work with them, to put some pieces together to then have a business that stands out and is unique and has a competitive advantage. We certainly do not need it to be deeply technical or have like a PhD thesis underlying it to feel like it's okay. But, if there's not a true hardware development component, it just may be less of a fit for what our sweet spot is in terms of really working with you and helping you.
And I'll say in general, we are looking for companies that can establish an IP moat. And so that may be something that looks like a integration effort, but there ought to be some IP involved.
Okay, here's a question. Do you all have any partnerships with strategic CVCs to help connect portfolio companies to you?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
We do.
A lot. And a lot of this really does come from our desire to work with companies that are making really big foundational changes to how the economy is going to work.
Yeah. That's key to what we do really, is having those relationships both to educate us, but also to serve as customers and opportunities for our companies. Okay. We could answer this question. Do you only invest in pre-seed companies at the $2.5 to $5 million valuation range, or do you invest in seed stage at $15 to $20 million valuations?
The short answer is we're really focusing on investing in companies that are in that lower valuation range. So really proper pre-seed companies. There may be some very opportunistic investments that we make at seed, but usually that would involve a pretty long conversation around how to make a deal work.
Yep. Okay. Any advice for first-time hard tech founders who are raising funds, and what are good sources to understand terms in a term sheet? And what are some of the common pitfalls which first-time founders struggle with?
Whew, that's a...
Bottom line is, where would you get advice on sort of navigating a term sheet if you're a first-time founder and really don't have experience with this space? That's
yeah. I mean, look, when we make our initial offers to companies, we do spend quite a bit of time working with founders to help them understand the implications of our documents. Obviously, you should always seek your own independent counsel. But I would give one really key piece of advice, which is at early stage, you need to talk to lawyers that actually understand how deals are made for early stage deep tech companies, because there's a long horizon that you have to think about, and the deals are structured in a way that helps to create buttresses and bulwarks for the companies as well as the investors, and so it's oftentimes more generalist business attorneys who aren't familiar with the sector may give you pretty aggressive advice that isn't really aligned with how the market operates.
I think it's an important point just to emphasize in general, right? Like, lawyers can be helpful, but with any advice, you need to have someone who really understands the context of that space And so, hopefully that's not primarily coming from perhaps legal, but more from a business and context point of view for anything that you're doing, because otherwise you might just be steered in the wrong direction and not get aligned with what your goal is and where you're trying to do your work.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if there are any.
We are at time.
Oh, that went fast.
But
Okay.
I feel like the legal questions are actually pretty important. So I was like, that one.
Thanks for letting us have that.
Yeah. Dr. Wu, Dr. Schofer, thank you so much for your time. This was fantastic. The best part is I get to learn more about the job that I'm actually in as well, because we do a lot of cool things, and I forget or just learn these new things that we do. I'm like, oh my God, we do that kind of work. That's great. So, even I'm grateful to be a part of it. Thank you everyone for your great questions. Very specific.
Well, what would you say if people still had questions because we didn't get to everything? I would say just follow up with us. We're on LinkedIn, reach out. Yeah. Don't be shy, because we're happy to answer more questions.
That was going to be my question. How do they find you?
Yeah. I just put my email in the chat.
Fantastic. And Susan, if you're risking it as well, go for it. And then with that, we're going to sign off of here. We have another great session happening right about now. We're excited for that. Once again, Susan Pei, thank you. Susan and I are actually in the same office, so I can see her. But Pei, I'll see you next time I'm in San Francisco in a few weeks.
Great to see y'all. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks a lot, everyone.